Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks, bringing you your daily Tesla report for Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. Let's take a look at the chart. Start with the big picture, work our way into the day itself. We mentioned the low 350s a month or so ago, and I don't want to backtrack too much, but it is a significant area of resistance. Longer-term buy signals and sell signals emerge on the weekly charts. You can spot them early on the daily chart, but it really is the weekly settlement above the 351.39 to 353.14 region this week anyway. That would set up a longer-term buy signal, presumably to 515.51, quite possibly by the end of the year. But that didn't happen. What did happen is about a month ago, we approached the low 350s. We spent a lot of time trading it. You can actually see it on the daily chart here. Oops, sorry about that. A lot of time on the daily chart here. And we even closed above it a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, spent several days above it, fell back below it on a Thursday, I think that was. I'm just going by memory here. I know we did not close the week above it as verified here on the weekly chart. And falling back below the low 350s, we did have a sell signal that played out just a couple of days later when we settled below this rising channel bottom that is now at 352.64. So 352.64 sort of is tucked inside this 51.39 to 53.14 area, and that sell signal that was Wednesday of last week, and then you had the Trump-Musk feud on Thursday of last week, the big sell-off where we tested this channel bottom at 284.59. And it was the testing of that channel bottom that was considered an objective, actually a 3 to 5 week, 2 to 3 week objective when we got the sell signal below 352.64. It happened in 2 days, actually less than 2 full trading days. 284.59 has been tested. We actually retested it on Monday, held nicely, and in fact, we closed above Friday's high. This is a setup for likely upward continuation. You know, we've been expecting it anyway. We've been mentioning how this 284.59 channel bottom can be considered a solid zone to not only take profits on a short position you may have established a couple of weeks ago or a week ago. It's also an area to go long, anticipating now upward rotation back into the low 350s. And that is the dynamic at play. Upside today, still have 309.31. We pushed through that just a bit, closed just below it. It is our pivot point today. If we push through 309.31, and I'm just going to kind of add a little concept here, which is to say that if we open today not only above 309.31, but we gap higher above yesterday's 309.83 high, that can yield 332.62 today. But I will say that just pushing or opening above 309.31 does allow 332.62 today. And this former channel bottom pushes into now a zone of resistance, kind of a base of consolidative support that played out several weeks ago, can contain daily highs, possibly a good high into next week. And so if you've been long 3 to 5 day swing traders at the 284.59 channel bottom and you're holding out for a price point to take at least some profits in, that would be 332.62. The way this steeply rising channel bottom is moving, it will be converging by some point next week with the low 350s anyway. And that is my next point, which is to say that if we close today above 332.62, and I think that's a long shot, but if so, then we retest tomorrow, Wednesday, the low 350s, that 351.39 to 353.14 area. Combination, 50% upside retracement from the December high to the more recent April low, and a 2-year rising channel top. Actually, it's about 2.5 years now. We settled above it last November, set off the follow-through buying. We were already strong at the time, but this became the clarifier for the 515.51 formation, which we did not test, came close to testing, fell back, and when we closed back below this channel structure, the rest of the sell-off ensued to the April low. Rallied back to it, and so this is still a challenge, and it's also an opportunity that, if settled above, is your indication to not be short Tesla as we move into the third quarter. If we can close above 353.14 over the next few weeks, close above it on a weekly basis, and I see longer-term bullish continuation to the 5-year channel top at 515.51. covering the downside, and it should be covered. Let me go to this chart right here and just say that if we open below 309.31, day traders can sell that carefully, anticipating possible bearish continuation back to the 284.59 level. Today, it's possible. Volatility is certainly high enough. But I think what I'm seeing here, testing the 284.59 channel bottom, closing above Friday's high, does set up, I think, upward. We're expecting the low 350s anyway over the next 2 to 3 weeks above 284.59. So this is all consistent with everything I've been saying. If we push or open above 309.31, 332.62 in reach today, where a daily high can be placed. And as I say, 3 to 5 day swing traders can at least take some profits at 332.62. Now, in terms of closing below 284.59, which is not likely today, but certainly possible, I see that as an indication that you should no longer be long if you've been bottom picking. And this is just my opinion. And then if we close also below 272.87, which is the 5/8 downside Fibonacci from that April low against the more recent May high, if we close below 272.87, down pivot into July. Holding above 284.59 is our up pivot into July, or the next 2 to 3 weeks into the low 350s. It's about as simple as that. Now, as this range begins to continue, we might throw other levels inside here, but right now it's about a 11, 12 point range. You could treat it as a range of support to buy into. But if we close below 284.59, I don't see that as an aggressive sell signal yet, although by one measure it is. But I think at the very least, if you've been bottom picking that 284.59 channel bottom, you should consider exiting that long position. Should you go short? You can, but I think the clarifier for the short side as we move into July is a settlement below 272.87, then anticipating 221.86 within a week or two. And as I've been saying, I think a settlement below that 5/8 at 272.87 over the next week or two would set up the 159.50 to 165.60 long-term 5-year channel bottom as a realistic 1 to 3 month objective, depending on volatility and market behavior on the way down. But I would expect it within 1 to 3 months of closing below 272.87. Until then, it's a bit of a moot point. 284.59 has been holding, the low 350s in reach again, likely again over the next couple of weeks. I think that pretty much rounds it out. I do want to mention that wickedstocks.com put out 3 stock picks last week: Tempest AI, Adobe Systems, Dana Holdings. They're all on the verge of significant buy signals that could yield 20, even more percent returns in the coming weeks and months. We provide all the updates. We support you through the stock pick. You give your stop loss recommendation, your targeted resistance, where you can take profits, etc., etc., etc. So go to wickedstocks.com. You'll also get, with that, 5-day free trial. You can see it all for free. The daily Triple Q and daily SPY analysis, weekly Apple stock, etc., etc. Check out wickedstocks.com. I will be back tomorrow, of course, with Wednesday's Tesla. You have a great day.